My mom roasted me at my brother's wedding, then the ex who left me at the altar walked up and ruined everything. She turned a champagne toast into a public résumé of my failures, and the room laughed like it was normal. Just when I escaped to breathe, the woman who vanished on our wedding day appeared like a ghost with perfect timing. What she said next made the humiliation feel like the least dangerous part of the night. "Hi, I'm Alex, 29, and my mom roasted me so hard at my brother's wedding, I'm pretty sure half the guests thought I was a literal barn animal." It was during the reception. Everyone was a couple drinks in, the string lights were twinkling, the DJ was warming up for the post-toast dance party, and I, single, degree-less, and mildly tipsy, was minding my own business at table 9 with my cousin Jeremy, who had just told me he sells haunted doll memorabilia on Etsy now. And then came the toast. Not the toast, like from the best man or the father of the groom. No. This was Mom's unsolicited champagne-fueled open mic moment. She didn't even have a mic. She just stood up, clinked her glass with a knife, and cleared her throat with the dramatic weight of someone who was about to launch into either a eulogy or a roast battle. "I just want to say," she began, balancing slightly in her wedges, "how proud I am of both my boys." My ears perked up. Oh God. It was happening. "Day we celebrate Daniel, who is now happily married and has his MBA." Applause, cheers, some mild clapping from table 5 where the brides weird yoga and kept blowing kisses at everyone. "And of course, my sweet Alex." People turned. I waved awkwardly. Mom smiled. And then, here it came. "He's not married, not educated." There was a long pause. You could actually feel the guests holding their breath like someone just pulled the pin on a grenade. "But he is very good at fixing things. And making us laugh. And well, he's a wonderful roommate to our cat, Buttons." Silence. Then a few confused chuckles. One guy coughed. I blinked. "Good at fixing things? Like what, broken dreams? My own shattered confidence? The worst part? She was trying to be sweet. I know my mom. This wasn't meant to be a burn. This was her awkward, wine-fueled attempt at including me in my brother's big day without sugarcoating my, let's say, unique life trajectory. But to everyone else? I looked like the family punchline. The flannel-clad bachelor failure who didn't graduate college and lives in the converted attic with a 12-pound emotional support cat. Jeremy leaned over and whispered, "Damn, bro. You just got LinkedIn body slammed." I wanted to crawl into a champagne bucket and drown. But it didn't stop there. After her impromptu toast, Mom sat down like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just outed my entire LinkedIn profile as unskilled clown with stable housing. The rest of the night, people came up to me with that look, half sympathy, half trying to remember if I was the one who once got arrested for starting a fire with a microwave burrito. I wasn't, for the record, that was Jeremy. The bride's grandma actually patted my hand and told me, "Some people bloom later. Like mold." I'm not sure if that was a mistranslation or just a really old-school burn, but it haunted me the rest of the night. So yeah? That's how my brother's wedding became the night I realized my entire family thinks I peaked in 2014 when I got Employee of the Month at GameStop. And I wish that was the end of it. But no. The real disaster started after the bouquet toss, when I made the grave mistake of escaping outside for air and ran into her. I hadn't seen her in 7 years. Not since she left me at the altar. I froze. She didn't. She just looked me dead in the eyes, gave me a soft smile, and said, "Hey, Alex. Long time." "Long time? Ma'am, you ghosted me in front of 73 people and a gluten-free wedding cake shaped like a Millennium Falcon." I was standing by the catering van, halfway through a slice of groomsman-forgotten red velvet, licking icing off my thumb like a feral raccoon. Real alpha male stuff. And suddenly there she was, Eva. My almost wife. My ex-fiancée. The girl who once made a scrapbook of our future house and then fled the literal building 2 hours before the vows. And now she was at my brother's wedding. In a silky emerald dress that clung to her body like it had something to prove. I looked like a rejected pizza delivery guy in a wrinkled dress shirt and Converse. The universe is a comedian. "What are you doing here?" I blurted, probably spraying a little cake crumb in her direction. She shrugged like we were bumping into each other at Target. "I'm friends with Cassie." Bridesmaid. I didn't know this was your brother's wedding until I got the invite. Oh. Cool. So just a casual re-entry into my life via my family's most emotionally significant gathering of the decade. I stood there, trying to play it cool while having a full-body anxiety tornado. Meanwhile, Eva was completely calm. Too calm. She tilted her head. You look good. Lie. You still live at your mom's place? Truth. Ouch. With buttons. She added, smiling. She remembered the cat. I'm between upgrades. I said, which is the kind of thing you say when you're unemployed and trying not to sound like a sad fortune cookie. There was a pause. Long enough to make me wonder if I could fake a heart attack and crawl into the rose bushes behind me. I owe you an apology, she said finally. I blinked. You mean for ghosting me on our wedding day or for leaving me to explain to Aunt Roberta why there was no first dance, only a please take your favor bag and quietly exit announcement? She laughed. Actually laughed. Like this was adorable. Both, she said. And for not reaching out sooner. I didn't know what to say. My brain was playing a montage of the worst day of my life set to Sarah McLachlan. You disappeared, I finally said. Blocked my number. Vanished. I needed space, she said. I freaked out. I wasn't ready. But I shouldn't have vanished. I stared at her. Eva, I thought you were dead. Or abducted. I literally filed a missing person report. I know, she whispered. I saw it on Facebook. I squinted. You were checking my Facebook? Only for like a year, she said. Then I stopped. It hurt too much. It hurt too much? You? Really? I can't believe you came back now like this, I said. You couldn't have chosen a more awkward time unless you parachuted into my colonoscopy. She laughed again. Like this was funny. Like my entire life wasn't a very slow-moving train wreck where all the passengers were my self-esteem. Then she said something that short-circuited my brain. I'm not here to mess with you, Alex. I'm here because I needed to see you. I've been thinking about you. A lot. I blinked. Again. Apparently that's my default trauma response. Just give me 5 minutes, she said. Please. And because I am weak and possibly still in love with the woman who once left me in a tux at a Holiday Inn, I nodded. We walked down the path toward the vineyard's edge, where the stars were out and the music from the tent was a faint background hum. And that's when she told me why she left. And why she might be back for good. So, Eva said, stopping by the vineyard fence, the moonlight catching the outline of her cheekbones like some kind of indie film betrayal scene. I didn't leave because I didn't love you. Cool. Great. Love that as an opener. She looked down at her shoes like they had the rest of the explanation printed on the soles. I left because I thought I'd ruin your life. Plot twist number 1. My brain threw up a warning sign labeled emotional whiplash. You were going to ruin my life? I asked, incredulous. Eva, you were my life. I know, she said quickly. That was the problem. I didn't know who I was outside of US. Everything was about the wedding and the house and the 5-year plan in which IKEA couch could survive the weight of 2 moderately depressed millennials. I snorted despite myself. She was always funny when she was nervous. It was infuriating. Also slightly charming. Mostly infuriating. I panicked. She went on. The night before the wedding, I was in my hotel room, and I just kept thinking, what if this is the best version of me I'll ever be? What if I trap you in a life with someone who doesn't even know how to be a full person? So your solution, I said, was to vanish like a magician's assistant and let me explain to 73 guests that you had, what? Spontaneous amnesia? She winced. I know. I was a coward. I let the silence hang in the air. In the distance, we could hear the DJ playing something obnoxious, probably. Shout. Somewhere out there, my mom was probably telling people I once failed math and couldn't commit to a gym membership. I thought you'd hate me forever, she said softer now. I did hate you, I admitted. For a while. Then I hated myself. Then I hated weddings. Then I just got tired of hating anything. She turned to face me fully. And now? Now? I looked at her, really looked at her, like I hadn't in years. Now I mostly hate that this conversation is happening in formalware while I'm emotionally hungover from my mom's he's not married or educated roast. Eva burst out laughing, a real, unfiltered laugh that echoed out over the rows of neatly trimmed grapes. I always loved how you made everything feel less heavy, she said. Even this. I leaned against the fence. So what, you just show up now? After 7 years? For closure? She hesitated. No, she said. I came because I think I made the biggest mistake of my life walking away. And I want to know if there's even the slightest chance we could start again. Slowly. As friends. Or more. I don't know. Oh no. My stomach did a full Olympic somersault. I could practically hear my therapist's voice from 6 months ago saying, "Closure doesn't mean rekindling, Alex. It means ending." But also, I'd imagined this conversation 100 times. In the shower. In traffic. Once while stress-eating cheese sticks during a Say Yes to the Dress rerun. And now it was happening. Alex? She said. Before I could answer, we heard footsteps. I turned. And there was Cassie, the bride, fuming. Like, veil in hand, eyes glowing, possessed by a vengeful bridesmaid goddess level of angry. Eva, she snapped. What the hell are you doing? Eva stepped back. Cass, I just needed. No. You don't get to just needed anything. You said you wouldn't speak to him. To who? I asked. Cassie shot me a look that could shave skin. You dumbass. There it was. The secret Eva didn't tell me. The real reason she was here. What do you mean she said she wouldn't talk to me? I asked, my voice cracking like a teenage barista on his first espresso order. Cassie crossed her arms, bouquet tossed somewhere in the gravel, mascara slightly smudged like a battle-hardened Disney villain. She promised, she said, glaring at Eva. Promised she'd keep her distance. That this wedding would not be about her unfinished love story. Eva winced. It's not like that. Oh really? Cassie cut her off. You show up in a dress that screams I hope he notices me, conveniently wander into his path right after the world's most brutal mom toast, and then drop a 5-minute monologue about how you might want him back? Classic Eva. I raised a hand like a kid in traffic court. Can someone explain how you two are even friends? Last I heard, Cassie called you a human tire fire who broke my soul like IKEA furniture without the manual. Eva and Cassie exchanged a long look. Book club, they said in unison. Book club, I repeated. You bonded over fictional trauma and just decided to skip past real-life betrayal? Cassie looked at me, all fury and bridal indignation. I warned her. I told her showing up would be a landmine. That you'd be too polite. That she'd start something she couldn't finish. I turned to Eva. So? Is that what this is? Some nostalgic experiment? No, she said quickly. I didn't expect anything. I couldn't stop wondering. If you hated me. If there was any version of the universe where we could be okay. I opened my mouth to respond, but then, like a sitcom cue, Mom appeared. She'd clearly been eavesdropping from behind the vineyard shed, holding a half-empty flute of Prosecco like a gossip-fueled Olympic torch. Oh good, she chirped. Everyone's here. Mother, I muttered. She gave Eva once over. You clean up nice, dear. Abandoning my son aside. Mom, I growled. Cassie gestured at her. Why are you like this? I'm just saying. Mom sniffed. You leave someone at the altar, you forfeit the right to wear silk at his brother's wedding. Eva turned ghost white. Okay, I said, stepping between them. This is officially a circus. Can we not have an emotional murder-suicide during the bouquet toss cool-down? Cassie rolled her eyes. Fine. But Eva, seriously. You promised. I know, Eva said. But I had to try. I get it. I cut in. Everyone's just trying. There was silence. Weird, stretched out, heart-thumping silence. Mom finally broke it. You know, she said casually, if this is going to become a thing again, I'd like to update the family newsletter. Right now it says Alex is emotionally unavailable and possibly allergic to commitment. I stared at her. You have a newsletter? I've sent 2 issues, she said, sipping. And both were bangers. Cassie pinched the bridge of her nose. I'm going back to the tent before I set something on fire. She turned and stormed off, veil fluttering like a war flag. Eva looked at me, eyes wide. I really didn't come here to start drama. I sighed. Then you came to the wrong wedding. This entire event is a deleted scene from Succession. She almost smiled. Alex. She started. No, I said. Let me talk. Because suddenly, I was exhausted. Not just from the day or the family embarrassment, or the emotional tripwire that was Eva's face, but from 7 years of wondering. Here's the deal, I said. You don't get to pop back in and ask for a second chance without admitting you obliterated me. Her mouth tightened. I loved you. I chose you. And when you vanished, I had to carry that crater alone. I know, she whispered. And now you're here, and part of me, idiot that I am, wants to rewind. But I'm not 22 anymore. I don't want chaos with cute hair. I want honesty. Reliability. Someone who doesn't need a panic attack and a monologue to know what she wants. She was silent. Then she did the most Eva thing imaginable. She pulled a crumpled envelope out of her tiny clutch purse. What is that? I asked. She handed it to me. I wrote it the night before our wedding, she said quietly, and never gave it to you. I looked at the envelope. My name was on it. In her handwriting. Shaky. But still hers. I opened it. And everything changed. The letter wasn't long. It was maybe 4 paragraphs. The paper smelled faintly like the lavender lotion she used to keep in her glove compartment. The ink had a smudge near the top, like she'd cried while writing it and tried to pretend she didn't. I read the first line out loud quietly. Alex, if you're reading this, I did the one thing I swore I never would. I ran. Eva stood in front of me, arms crossed now, like she was bracing for a tornado made of bad decisions and nostalgia. I kept reading. I don't know how to explain what's happening in my chest right now, except to say it feels like I'm about to give you everything and I don't know if I'm enough. My throat got tight. I skipped to the next paragraph. You've always been the steady one. The fixer. The funny one who made me feel like my mess wasn't too much. And I've always wondered if someday, when the high wore off, you'd wake up and realize you picked someone who doesn't deserve that kind of faith. I looked up at her. She wasn't crying. But her jaw was clenched so tight I thought she might crack a molar. I read the last part silently, then folded it back up. You never gave this to me? I asked. She shook her head. I thought if I gave it to you, you'd try to talk me out of it. And I was scared I'd let you. I held the letter a little tighter. Eva, you didn't need to be perfect. You just needed to stay. That was the only test. I failed. She said. I know. And now? I asked. Why now? Why this wedding? Why come back now? She hesitated. Because I've changed. I've done the therapy. I've lived on my own. I rebuilt. Slowly. I even fostered a dog that hated me less than Buttons ever did. I laughed once, unexpectedly. Impossible. Okay, she bit me twice. She admitted. But she let me hold her paw once, and I cried for an hour. And now you think we could just pick up where we left off? No, she said immediately. I don't. I think we could start something new. I think we're different people now. But I still, God, Alex, I still love you. I flinched. I never stopped, she added. And there it was. The thing I had secretly wanted to hear for 7 years, delivered to me in a vineyard, in a tux that didn't fit, after being emotionally body-slammed by my mother in front of a live audience. Say something, she said. I didn't. Because I was processing the 100 versions of reality I'd lived in my head, the ones where she apologized, where she didn't, where we ran into each other at a grocery store and I delivered a perfect monologue about healing and moving on that ended with me walking away while Florence and the machine played dramatically in the background. Instead, I said the dumbest possible thing. You want cake? She blinked. What? I was holding cake when you ambushed me. I dropped it somewhere between betrayal and emotional whiplash. She stared at me for a second, then cracked a smile. Are you asking me to get dessert with you? I'm asking if you're willing to walk back into that tent with me, knowing full well that half the family thinks you're either a ghost or a demon in a very flattering dress. She hesitated. Then she held out her hand. I took it. And just like that, we walked back toward the tent. Inside, the dance floor was chaos. Uncle Dave was doing the worm. Jeremy was showing two teenagers how to vape discreetly. Cassie caught our eyes from across the room and just slowly shook her head like a disapproving sitcom landlord. But Mom saw us and immediately perked up. Oh look! She called. He brought a date. Mom! I warned. She's pretty, Mom added. Still not married or educated, but clearly something's working. Eva laughed. I groaned. We found cake. Sat at table 9. Ate in silence for a bit. And just when I thought the night couldn't get weirder, the DJ made an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a special surprise. The lights dimmed. The music shifted. And suddenly, a familiar voice came on the mic. Cassie. Eyes wild. Voice like a game show host on a vengeance bender. I'd like to call up my bridesmaids, she said sweetly. We've prepared something special for the groom, and for Alex. Eva froze. I looked around, confused. And then, they started singing. It began as a soft acoustic strum. Then Cassie's voice rang out, slightly off-key, deeply committed, singing a custom parody of Somebody That I Used to Know. Except she'd rewritten the lyrics entirely. Now and then I think of when you left him standing. Tucks all wrinkled, guests confused, his mom was screaming. Oh my God! The other bridesmaids joined in, harmonizing like a drunk choir of vengeance angels. They even had choreography. Jazz hands. Synchronized, pointing at Eva. One girl did a twirl with a prop veil. Jeremy leaned over from another table and whispered, I think this is illegal in at least 3 states. Eva buried her face in her hands. I half choked on my cake. You didn't have to run away like that, Cassie sang, swaying. Make out like it never happened and that we meant nothing. And now you show up looking hot and sad. Pretending that his pain was just a phase and not your aftermath. The crowd was loving it. Cheering. Filming. I spotted a groomsman holding up a lighter like it was 2004 and he was at a Nickelback concert. Cassie finished with a dramatic flourish, tossed her mic to the DJ like a mic drop, and curtsied. The bridesmaids bowed. And then, silence. All eyes turned to our table. I stood up slowly. Took a deep breath. Then I clapped. Loudly. Sarcastically. The whole room laughed. Eva peeked up at me. Are you okay? Honestly? I said. That was the pettiest, most aggressive Broadway moment I've ever seen. And I respect the hell out of it. She laughed, but there were tears in her eyes now. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know. We left soon after that. Slipped out quietly while Uptown Funk played and someone's grandma tried to twerk near the gift table. Outside, under the fairy lights, Eva turned to me. So, what now? I looked at her. 7 years of history. Of grief. Of wondering. Of almosts. And now this strange, chaotic night had brought it all back. Now, I said, we take it slow. No grand gestures. No wedding dresses. Just coffee. And honesty. And maybe one day I let you meet Buttons again, if she doesn't file a restraining order first. Eva smiled, really smiled. I can live with that. I took her hand again. And as we walked off into the parking lot, past rows of parked cars and shattered expectations, I realized something. I wasn't the guy Mom roasted anymore. I wasn't the one who got left behind. I was the guy who survived the song, the toast, the wedding, and the woman who broke my heart, only to maybe fall for her all over again. But this time? On my terms. Slow. Real. Earned. And with way less cake in my hand.